The desert sun bled across the horizon, painting the Wild West in shades of crimson and gold. Dust swirled through the streets of a forgotten settlement known only in whispers as the City of Dark Trails. Once, it had been a bustling hub where traders, gunslingers, and fortune-seekers crossed paths. Now, its streets were silent, its wooden storefronts weather-beaten, and its saloons filled with the stench of fear. People said the city was cursed, others claimed it was haunted by the shadows of all the innocents who had died there. But the truth was far simpler, and far crueler. The city had no protector. Years ago, it had been defended by a man named Jonathan Ironshade McCrew, the last of a proud family of lawmen. Jonathan fought until his final breath, driving back a ruthless gang called the Black Hawks. But his sacrifice didn't bring peace. His death left the city vulnerable, and like wolves smelling blood, new predators moved in. Now, the gang that ruled the city was called the Coyote Shadows, led by a ruthless gunslinger known only as Raven. He was a man feared even by killers with cold eyes, a voice like gravel, and a reputation for leaving no survivors. Under his thumb, the city rotted. No law, no justice. Only the strong survived. But fate had a way of circling back. At dawn, the silence was broken by the slow clatter of horse hooves. Out of the shimmering heat haze rode a lone figure, a young woman, tall in the saddle, her face half hidden beneath the brim of her hat. Her dark coat was dust-stained from the trail, but the glint of steel at her hip was unmistakable. Her name was Elizabeth McRae, the daughter of the last defender. She dismounted outside an old inn, the wooden planks creaking beneath her boots. The eyes of townsfolk peeked out from behind shuttered windows. They hadn't seen a McRae in years, and whispers spread like wildfire. At the saloon across the street, a group of the Raven's men lounged in the doorway. One of them, a scarred brute with a whiskey grin, leaned forward. Well, he drawled. "What's this?" "A lady with the shooter." "You lost, darlin'. This town belongs to the Raven." Elizabeth met his gaze without flinching. Her voice was low, but it carried like steel cutting glass. "Number." "It belongs to me." She walked past without a second glance, her spurs echoing like a challenge. The gang's laughter followed her, but beneath it was unease. Something in her eyes, something familiar, made their throats tighten. That night, in the dim light of her rented room, Elizabeth opened a worn leather journal. It was her father's, the last thing he'd ever written in. Notes about the city, its gangs, its dangers. And on this final page, written in blood-stained ink, were words that struck her heart like a bullet. "If destiny brings you here, remember strength is not in the gun. Strength is in the heart. But the heart must always be ready to fire first." Her father's voice echoed in her soul. She had come not for glory, but for justice. And she knew the Raven would come for her. The next morning, the first test arrived. At the well in the center of town, a crowd gathered. 3 of the Raven's men dragged the young boy by the collar, accusing him of stealing bread. The townsfolk stood frozen, eyes lowered. One of the men raised a whip. "Law of Dark Trails is simple," he bellowed. "A thief pays with his life." The whip cracked through the air, but the single gunshot shattered the silence. The whip's handle splintered in the man's hand. Smoke curled from the barrel of Elizabeth's revolver. She stood across the square, her hat tilted low, her stance steady as stone. "The law has changed," she said firmly. "From now on, you answer to me." The crowd gasped. The boy scrambled free. The 3 bandits hesitated, shaken by the calm fire in her eyes. They backed away, humiliated, and the square erupted with whispers. "She's back, a broken bar, McCree, a broken bar, the defender's bloodline, a broken bar." By evening, word reached the Raven. He sat in an abandoned barn, lit only by a lantern. His men gathered around him, nervous and restless. The Raven didn't smile often, but now he did, and it was a cruel, sharp thing. "So," he growled, "the daughter thinks she's a hero. Let her try. Tomorrow, we'll show her what becomes of legends." Elizabeth knew they would come. She sat alone in the broken-down church at the edge of town, where her father once prayed before his final stand. Moonlight cut through shattered windows, laying pale silver across the worn pews. She whispered no prayer of salvation, only a vow. "Father, a broken bar, I will finish what you started." When the doors burst open and footsteps echoed inside, she didn't flinch. Her hand rested on her revolver, steady as her heartbeat. The shadows of her enemies crept closer, their laughter low and hungry. The night air was charged, heavy with the promise of violence. Elizabeth's eyes burned with a fire that would not go out. This was only the beginning. The battle for the City of Dark Trails had just begun.